Africans at home and throughout the diaspora. Unity is strength. We've got the power.
Stop the fussing and the fighting. Now's the time to do the right thing.
We need more unity. Come.
Stop the fussing and the fighting. Yeah. Now's the time to do the right thing.
In the spirit of Umoja, embrace with love.
Let's do it right now. We've got to do it right. Stop the fussing and the fighting.
Right now.
Now's the time to do the right thing. Let's do it right now. We've got to do it right.
Right now. Right now.
Yes, yes, this is Jamala Rogers, your host of Voices from the Battlefield, and we are not doing this live from Harris Stowe State University because there's been some damage there, and we cannot get in probably for the whole month of September. I am not worried about this radio program, y'all. We can do this live streaming on Facebook. What I am concerned about is the water damage and the mold that could result from that because there are some artifacts in that building that are irreplaceable. So that's my concern. And so hopefully we get that water damage cleaned up right away and efficiently and effectively so that it does not damage the museum artifacts. So again, this is Jamala Rogers, your host of Voices from the Battlefield. And I do want to remind you, as I have been doing, that we still have a pathological liar and a 34-count felon in the White House who is shredding our Constitution, who is robbing public coffers, who is doing damage that may take a generation to correct. So that's why it is incumbent upon us to act like we're in a completely different climate and point in history than we've ever been, and we act accordingly. And that means we have to create some space and time for the fight back. And I'm going to be telling you how to do that across platforms. When I'm writing, when I'm speaking, I'm going to be telling you how to do that. So if you're not, first of all, part of an organization, you need to be a part of that. And I mean an organization that is actually fighting for this democracy. Because right now, Congress is dysfunctional. There's just dysfunction all around. So we have to be clear on what is at stake here. And for Black and brown people, it's going to hit us particularly hard. So we already are seeing results of the big ugly bill. Folks are telling me that the ones who work at healthcare centers, residential centers, that they're being told, find a place for your granny because this sucker is about to close. I've gotten reports from folks who have special needs children that their Medicaid has been cut significantly. There are families whose food stamps have been cut drastically. So they're not hollering about that, y'all. They're going to suffer silently. And so we have to really put the pressure on where the pressure needs to be, and that is on our elected officials right now. And we also know that they are trying to do some illegal gerrymandering to take away yet another congressional district here in Missouri. And I'm going to make some announcements about that because there's busloads of folks going up to Jeff City for the special session, which they're going to try to vote this crap in. But what it will do is take the congressional district that Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver is in, split that 3 different ways, and some of that district would go all the way to Columbia. So if you all have any knowledge of how geography works, y'all know that's a long and torturous redistricting that they're doing to make sure that they get another Republican seat out of this. This is at the behest of the orange man in the White House, that he needs those seats so that they can maintain control of the Senate in the house going forward. So there's some work for us to do, but we're going to start on a light note and my favorite subject, which is young people. Because they are the future, y'all. If we don't take care of them, as you all know, I always say black children are the canary in racial capitalism because if they're suffering, all of us are going to suffer. And so we have two people here today that have been working with young people in different capacities, but specifically with St. Louis Artworks. So I'd like to welcome Jacqueline Dace and Sabrina Silvers. And Jackie is now she's the executive director. I think you've been there since 2021, but you have a museum history, a museum background. So we want to hear how that all folds in. And for you, Sabrina, I know you the assistant director. I don't know if that's assistant to the director or assistant director. Sometimes those titles are important because they mean different things. But she's committed to artworks and the children that come through there, the young people that come through there. But she's also been a part of Dexter Studio Artworks, which is in the Grove. So there is some background there with art. But these sisters are definitely going to help us understand artworks. And then this is the 30th anniversary. And so you all got some stuff coming up that you got to let our listeners know about. So again, welcome. And I'm just going to ask you to talk a little bit about the origin of artworks and what you do with the young people.
Okay, well, hello, and thank you for this opportunity for us to be able to highlight St. Louis Artworks. And just for clarification, Sabrina is the assistant director. So you're right, there is a difference between assistant to the director and assistant director. Um, St. Louis Artworks is a youth art education job training program. And we have been around since 1995. December the 13th will be our 30th anniversary, and St. Louis Artworks started as a model program from a project that was in Chicago called Gallery 37. And Gallery 37 in Chicago, they worked outside under tents. So when St. Louis Artworks started for the first couple of years, it actually was outside under tents downtown. And of course, the heat and humidity of St. Louis, they quickly learned that maybe that wasn't the best idea,
That ain't
right?
gonna work.
That wasn't the best
Yeah.
idea. So they began to look for different locations where, it could be this program that was held in the summer that was connected with the city of St. Louis because actually Mayor Slay and several of the city civic leaders and volunteers were the ones that helped start the program. Uh, the artwork started working out of different locations: Adams School, Centene Center, different locations around the city until about 10 years ago when we started renting this facility at 5959 Delmar. So this is the first standalone building that St. Louis Artworks has been in. And we are now a year-round program, spring, summer, and fall. We work with youth age 14 to 19 in various different art projects, any type of discipline that you can imagine. I always like to point out that all the images that you see behind me, all of the works that you see on my wall, are pieces that were created by the youth in our program. At the end of each one of our seasons, we have an art sale. And so all of the pieces on my wall are items that I've purchased since I've been here since March of 21. We are beginning our fall program, and that starts on Saturday, September the 6th. We'll run through December the 6th. And we are still hiring. So if anybody is interested, if you know any youth that might be interested in the program, again, age 14 to 19, please apply online at stoartworks.org. Sabrina, did I miss anything?
Well, I think you covered all the bases aside of everything that we do. Not only are we an art apprenticeship, but we also do job skills training. We have life skills. We have art therapy and different things for students to be involved in while they're here.
Right.
I, I,
We bring in
go ahead.
speakers to talk to them about financial literacy, mental health, health and wellness. So as well as other historical, as you know, My background is in the museum field, and I've studied history throughout for several years. So I always like to bring in speakers to talk about his historical significance, because it's a lot of things that these kids just simply don't know or they don't get in the classroom. And so we kind of introduce some focus and allow them to create art around that.
So, a couple of things. I had the chance to see your young people at work because at a certain point, they were over at Harris Stowe,
Mhm.
and they didn't know who I was, and I just, was not trying to hover over them, but definitely they were busy as bees, doing, what they do, and I just, it's always that longing to be in youth programs because they are so inspiring, they're so motivating, and sometimes I would hear some of the questions or some of the instructions that was given by the adult there, and I'm like, yeah, I missed that part of it. But they were in that historic space, and I thought about your connection with museums, and so how are you incorporating some of that background, some of the skills that you have, some of the knowledge about art as
Mhm.
you get young people to understand the value of art, not just in our community, but in society, the value of particularly historic art.
Mhm.
But even what they're creating now is part of the fabric and the motivation and the inspiration. How does that transfer to a program like Artworks?
Well, there have been several projects that we've incorporated into the program since I've been here with a particular focus area. One of the things that we commemorated, excuse me, we commemorated the 60th anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech. We showed the kids, and I was kind of amazed that many of them had never heard the entire speech. All they had
Mm-hmm.
heard was the I Have a Dream portion. So we
Mm-hmm.
created a video called How Does It End? Because I
Oh.
talked to the kids about, the fact that when Dr. King was giving his speech, it was not intentional that the I Have a Dream portion was going to be the way in which he ended it. And so it was Mahalia Jackson that says, tell them about your dream, Martin, tell them about your dream. And so had she not said that, how would he have ended that speech, right? And that's
Mm.
always been a question that I wanted to know. And so we kind of allowed the students to think about that. They interviewed several people, including one of the people that I was fortunate enough to get to know when I worked in Mississippi at the Civil Rights Museum was the current president of the NAACP. I'm skipping on his name, Johnson, but it'll come to me. Derek
The
Johnson.
current Derek Johnson, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Derek. So we did an interview with Derek. We also did an interview with one of the brother of Hakeem Jeffrey, Hassan Jeffries, and I met him when I was in Cincinnati because Hassan is a professor of history at the Ohio State University, and so the kids were able to ask these individuals how would they have ended this? Had what's important today? And then they went back, and the youth in the program created artwork around, the idea of the voting rights and the March on Washington and freedom. The other thing that we focused on the 60th anniversary of Freedom Summer. And so, I told them about what Freedom Summer was. One of the amazing things is once you introduce it to the youth, they do their own research, right? And so they became excited about this idea, this concept that they had never heard about. And
Wow.
so they started creating artwork around Freedom Summer. And we were focusing on democracy, voting rights, finding your own voice. A couple of the pieces are behind me right now. We created yard signs that encourage people to vote. The etching that's behind me that says "vote," that big red and white one with the image, was created in that discipline. The other project that we most recently completed was in partnership with the St. Louis Art Museum, and we focus on the green, the Negro, the Green Book. the Negro Traveler's Guide.
And
And
I know they hadn't heard of that one.
they had not, many
Because
of them had never heard of it.
there's some adults that never heard of that
Is
one.
and
Yeah.
still right. And so
Yeah.
we had a photography discipline. So they went around, they learned about the Green Book, they went around and photographed places that are still in existence, places that are no longer in existence, and they actually even created their own standing photo exhibit that was on display at the St. Louis Art Museum for one day. And then, as you mentioned, they finished in the summer a mural commemorating the St. Louis Stars Negro Leagues baseball players. And so all of this history is something that once they learn it, they'll never forget. And they can
Yeah.
always, as you know, once you get it and it's something that gets that spark in you, you can build upon it. And it's a great experience for them. I know they also, one of the people that they were able to talk to was the producer of the Emmett Till movie, Keith Beauchamp. I was able to have Keith to Zoom in, and he talked to the kids. We premiered the Till movie here
Wow.
and
Wow.
showed them that story. We had Brenda Travis, who's a civil rights activist, because she's in California. We also brought her in via Zoom so she could talk to the kids. They could talk to somebody first person that was involved that has been involved in the civil rights movement in Mississippi. And then we can do some more lighthearted things. One of the people that I was glad to be able to connect with was Bobby Rush, the blues musician. And I contacted Bobby one day when I knew he was going to be in town and asked him to come out by and talk to the kids. He came by, spent about an hour.
Oh,
They didn't,
wow.
of course, they didn't know who he was either.
Right,
And
right.
but they took pictures with him. And I told him, I said, take this picture, go home and tell your parents and grandparents who show them the picture. And many of them came back the next day like, how did you meet him? How did you get to know Bobby Rush? So it's stuff like that. We like to keep it lighthearted, but we also like to provide them these opportunities, these kernels of knowledge that they can take elsewhere.
Wow, that's amazing. And so, Sabrina, I'm thinking about the fact that there are different levels of probably interest, but definitely different levels of skill of the young people that are coming there. I remember telling Jackie that when you all first started, I was always there at the annual sale of all the artwork that the young people had created, and some of them were quite sophisticated. But I can remember buying some pottery that was a little crooked at the edges and but yeah, but so how do you all recruit and how do you all bring all those different levels into a project, some of the projects that Jackie just talked about?
So a lot of what we do is we do school recruiting. So we get a lot of students from all over St. Louis City, St. Louis County, public and private schools. But the apprentices tell their friends about it, and they want to be a part of the program. We do offer multiple disciplines, so it's not just painting and drawing. There's sculpture. There's art and technology, photography. We offered a sewing discipline just this past summer, and
Wow.
that turned out really nice. That was the first time that we had a sewing discipline since I've been here. But the one thing that Jackie did start when she arrived was in art basics. So we do have the students that are more highly skilled, and there's some that will still benefit from being a part of the program because of everything else that we offer, the other opportunities that they would be able to take advantage of. So we do have that basic level art 101 that the students can get involved with too.
Okay, okay. And you mentioned the art therapy part, and I wonder how much of the young people's trauma comes through, because these are young people that are post uh, COVID, post even the 2020 for 2022 shooting at the Visual and Performing
Central
Arts,
Visual
and I,
Performance.
yeah, and I
Mhm.
and I always tell people it wasn't just the kids in that building that were traumatized. All the kids in the district and other districts were as well because you don't know where the shooter is, you don't know where they're coming, uh, and so. And then plus they have all this intergenerational trauma that's inside their families, and then you tack on top of that what's coming on onto them from a racist society. So, are some of those things bubbling up? And if so, how are you all dealing with that?
I want to say it does. When the Central Visual and Performing Arts shooting happened, we did have a couple students that attended the school and lost loved ones or people that they knew. And like you said, it didn't just affect the students that were at the school; it was a community thing. So,
Yeah,
and everybody felt the trauma behind all of that. But they do have the opportunity to speak to the art therapist in group sessions and as in individual sessions and create art. In the sessions based on their feelings, emotions, or whatever it is that they want to get out. And the art therapist kind of helps them navigate those feelings through art. Uh, but just, being post COVID during that time, our doors remained open. We went to a virtual model and we did the telehealth and we were still able to offer the program, but just on an abbreviated version. But uh, yeah, there's opportunities for even other presenters that come in. So not only do we have the art therapists, but during our life skills, we work with Freedom Community Center and other local organizations that come in and talk about healthy relationships and lifestyles, behaviors, and appropriate, even with the social media era, and
yeah,
all of that. So we try to
yeah,
address lots of issues in an
yeah.
artistic and fun way still.
Yeah, and I want people to understand the importance of community-based programs like you all because, first of all, everybody didn't deal with that trauma. Most people probably, I'm talking about programs. Uh, Even though our children in many ways are crying out for help, sometimes people are not picking up on it. And so I just feel like a program like you all is so vital to our community and to our young people because not only are you about it's really about the whole child, the whole young person. And so I don't know that a lot of programs out there are dealing with that in that way. And I think about also these are young people who I can't say it any other way, and I hope it doesn't come across negative, who don't know a whole lot about the world that they are in. And so the world that they are going to be forced to navigate through as they look at careers, as they look at jobs, as they look at furthering their education, as they look at even relationships and their marriage, like so much of it they don't know and they stumble upon it and then sometimes it's not exactly positive, a positive interaction or positive relationship. So, it seems like you all are preparing the young people for all that they might encounter and hopefully instill in them the curiosity about life. And I think that gets dulled as they go through the school system that in some ways, and then I know I was a part of it for many years, don't really tap into that. And so, what kind of relationships do you have with the school that is positive? Because I hear from people all the time. I try to get this really nice program into the schools, and I didn't hear back from the. I mean, it's all of that, and people are like, "What? This is a school system. This in particular, St. Louis public schools need to be like opening up the doors for anybody who wants to help them, but people have found out that that is not necessarily the case. So what relationships you have with either particular schools or with board members to let them know that here is a program that you all need to be letting your young people know about so that we can bring them in.
And we do. Our program manager has a relationship with several of the schools throughout the region, so they go out and talk to the students at the schools. Also, What I found, not only in terms of connecting with the schools, but the most important person to connect with is the teachers, because they're the ones that are going to promote it. And they're the ones that also oftentimes are the ones that are front line with the students. And
Yeah.
so that's who I strongly encourage anytime, I've in my other life, I tried to work with the school system, and I had the principal on board. I decided that I was going to talk to the board, the principal, and the teacher. So I wanted three levels, and the one that I knew that if the principal would say make sure that this happened, the teacher could co-sign. And so that's one of the ways in which we try to get in the door. In addition to that, we have a great relationship with Sumner. Many of the teachers that are at Sumner or teachers that they've brought in. So some of our teaching artists actually are teachers in the classroom at Sumner. Most of our teaching artists are teachers in the classroom somewhere,
Okay.
So
Okay.
in addition to them being magnificent artists, and now that I say it, that I'm trying to think of one that we have that is not a teacher in the classroom. The overwhelming, I would say probably 90% of our teaching artists are teachers in the classroom. And so we go in through that door as well. And then any and all vendor events that we can make it to, we are at those vendor events. So we're out there in the community as well. We are limited only by the fact that we have a very limited workforce. You're looking at the two full-time staff members of St.
Yeah.
Louis
Yeah.
Artworks. You know,
Yeah.
I would love to be able to have the funding necessary to expand the program. And and I'll say this because I want to make sure I say this before it gets out of my head. We serve 180 to 200 youth. We hire 180 to 200 youth annually. However, in the summer, we had 189 youth to apply for the program, and we were only able to hire 67. That has nothing to do with the capacity of St. Louis Artworks beyond the fact that we just don't have the funding to do that. We could have hired many more youth. It is a competitive process. All 189 would not have been hired, but we could have had many more youth in the program if we had the funding available to support that.
So talk a little bit about what it takes to get in there, because it's like somebody shows up at the door, come on in, we got a place for you. How
No,
does that work?
no,
I think
it
you
is
said earlier, and I
competitive.
need to touch on that, but it is an application process. The students go online. The sessions are available 3 times a year, spring, summer, and fall. So they do apply. They would be called in for an interview. They would have to show a sample of their artwork in whatever form they choose. And if hired on after the interview process, then they become an apprentice.
Mhm. And
So
they
let me just make this clear, y'all, because it sounds like it's not just a program. The folks who are in the program are actually being paid to be there.
right.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
See, to
apprenticeship.
me, that's a completely different like carrot right there that
Yeah.
folks need to know about. You
Hmm.
get in this program, you get paid to do the thing that you love the best, and that's art.
And
Yeah.
That's very different. Yeah.
that's a significant point. I'm glad you brought that out because they are apprentices. They receive a stipend, so I don't want people to think that it's going to be, even minimum wage. It's if we're paying it's $6 an hour, but sometimes we get an opportunity to work with St. Louis youth jobs, and if the kids qualify between 16 and 18, then we can get them paid through St. Louis youth jobs, and it's more conducive to the minimum wage. However, we frequently get asked by parents or some of the guardians whether or not they have to pay to be part of the program. It's like, no, you don't have to pay. You actually receive a paycheck because this is a job training program as well. So when we talk about that, they have to apply, they have to come in for an interview, they have to submit a referral letter. And then we make the decision as to whether or not they can be part of the program, but we try to make it competitive. And yet, as Sabrina mentioned, we started the art basics or the foundations of art because I didn't want the entire focus to be around who was the absolute best artist. We wanted to be around whether or not these kids want to be in this program, whether or not you think they will gain something from this program. And sometimes it's not art. Sometimes it is, learning about how to be a creative thinker. how to, take this art and develop it into something else, how to become an entrepreneur. But they want to be part of this program. And as long as they have that commitment and they are willing to do everything that we're asking them to do, I don't want that barrier to be placed just because they're not the best artists in the world.
Yeah. So Sabrina, I know I interrupted you because I was so excited about them getting paid to do what they love. But talk a little bit more about, okay, after you talked about the 3 times a year, is that like they get 6 weeks of a program and then they have to reapply? How is that going to work, Sabrina?
So in the summertime, it's a 6 week program, and
Okay.
the summers when we have our largest amount of students here. Spring and fall are both 13 weeks. And usually the students that are here in the fall carry over to the spring, but they have to be invited back or receive a recommendation from the teaching artist to say, and most of them, they are eligible for rehire, but we want to be able to give different students new opportunities. So we kind of rotate. And some students that aren't available in the summer are more available in the spring or fall.
So
Okay.
technically, they do not have to reapply, but as
Okay.
long as they are in good standing, they can be placed again in the program in the following seasons as well.
And it's 14 through 19. So a lot of students, it's their first job. And then we've had students that stay with us throughout that time and age out at 19. And a couple of them have come back to be
Hmm.
assistant to
Okay.
the teaching artist. So we have students that love being here, that want to come back. A couple of them try to sneak their friends in too. but, but yeah.
We
Well, each one tell one. That's how we do it, right?
Right. We have one teaching artist that was an apprentice in the program when she was younger. Stasia Carey, I always have to mention Stasia's name. She was an apprentice in the program when she was younger. We have a teaching artist that has been with us since the program started in 1996, and both of his sons came through the program. It's always
Okay.
great, and just last summer we had a mother who brought her daughter because she said this was the first job she had and she wanted this to be the first job her daughter has. So
Okay.
it's become a family type thing
Well,
also.
when you're around for 30 years, that's at least 2 generations. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's but the thing that makes me feel good about it is the fact that they want to do it. They
Right,
want to do
right.
it, and they want their children to be part of it. So that
So
encourages.
so when you all do you have the capacity to follow the young people, for example, to see what careers are entering? Does somebody go to school on an art degree? And I know that oftentimes, even when people get a degree in art, they can't find a job. I just worked with a young person who got a degree in museum science,
Hmm.
and the job after college was working at Panera Bread as a baker.
Hmm.
So I mean, come on, y'all, come on, society. Let's like utilize these young people's skills. But that's what's out there right now, and so I'm just wondering for you all, how many of them were actually able to continue whatever art facet they were in? Were they able to do a career there? And if not, were they still able to do that? Because most of the time, that's the thing that brings them joy, or that's their own special therapy. Like, how has that worked out, or have you all been able to track that?
We can't track each and every alumni. That's one of the things that I would love to be able to keep a better specific data on is are the alumni that have been in the program. But we do have relationships with many of the youth that have been part of the programs, and they sometimes we're their references, when they are going off to college or when they're getting their first job. We have many of the youth that are in the program, they don't necessarily go off to college to study art. We just recently, one of the young ladies that aged out of the program, she, gleefully told us that she had a full scholarship at SIU Edwardsville in the School of Pharmacy. So we're thrilled to be able to see that. We do have, I know that we have a former apprentice that is a curator at at a museum in Alabama. We have an apprentice that has a floral shop, two floral shops in New York. We have several apprentices that more recent that have full scholarships. One at Brown, one at Yale, one at
Chicago.
yeah, Chicago School of Art, and one at Wash U. You know, these are all females, also, I must add. But they have full scholarships, and two of the three are not going pursuing art. You know, they have different interests, but they use art, as you say, that's your own therapy. So if I'm doing intensive theorems all week, and I need some kind of way to relax and take a hold of myself, I can go home and I can paint. You know, I can relax. I can use that as a therapy. But in addition to that, they also learn ways in which they can use art to make additional money. You know,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we have many little entrepreneurs out there. They are creating their own T-shirts, their screen prints. Some of them are, designing books. They've become miniature entrepreneurs out of this program. That's one of the things that we also share with them is how they can create their own little companies, and become entrepreneurs in this. And so you can use art in so many different ways.
yeah, yeah. But Sabrina also, and I'm saying that because I know how the program works, and then I got a chance to see the young people in action over at the museum, the
Harris
Black
Stone.
Radio Hall of Fame. Yeah, Harris Stowe, and so they're learning so much more than the art. I mean, if they have to apply, that's a whole nother learning process. You got to apply for you have to have an interview. I mean,
Hmm.
there's so many skills that you have to learn in order to get into this program. You have to learn how to work with a team, and I saw that
Hmm.
in real time. They were collaborating with each others and even giving critiquing each other's work. So
Mhm.
all of that is important when you even if you don't go into art, those are skills transferable to any kind of situation.
Mhm.
So talk about some of those soft skills that the young people are getting, and sometimes they don't even know that this is a skill that they're learning. But definitely when they get in the situation, they're going to call upon that experience and that
Mhm.
knowledge. How is that helping them? Some of those soft skills.
So we've done the resume writing and professional development, college readiness. We work with, a lot of community partners to help, deliver these tidbits of knowledge for the students. But part of what we do is commission work, and we work with community partners as the clients, and they come in and they speak to the students about if they commission a project. So they'll come in and present their ideas to the students, and then the students have to in turn turn around and create what it is that the client is asking for. So we've done projects for Harris Stowe, the
Great Rivers
Old
Greenway.
Courthouse,
Mhm.
Great Rivers Greenway,
Oh,
Drury Hotel, Delmar Loop. So there's in this past 30 years, we have a lot of artwork out here in the community. And I think that's a great opportunity for the students to learn uh, that entrepreneurial skill. We're working with a client at the sales. They learn how to price their artwork. They learn how to public speaking and being comfortable enough to speak in front of the audience that comes in and customers. And it's a lot that we offer here that is under the guise of just an art program. And
right,
Jackie says
right.
all the time, we're art and more, but every opportunity that we come across, we try to bring it before the kids so they can take advantage of it.
I remember whenever I would come to those art shows to buy something, I would make them give me the whole spiel. I mean, I was going to
Yes.
buy it anyway, but I wanted to hear like how they came up with the concept, and
Hmm.
I think that was the fun part for me. They didn't know what I was doing, but they were all in it. They were like telling their family history about how it came to this one like art piece, and so I think that's so important for them to be their own advocate and to
Hmm.
understand the value that they have and the value that they're bringing. And so I remember some of the young people were a little bit shy, and I'm like, yeah, even if you don't go into this for a business, you can have this on the side and do different things. And I see that all the time. Young people out there in the park, or at an event, hustling their stuff, and it's like grade A stuff. It's not like some like
Hmm.
secondhand looking stuff. So they are perfecting that in ways that I think we have probably hadn't anticipated. But I think a program like you all's actually does help them to do that. If you are just joining us, this is Jamala Rogers, host of Voices from the Battlefield, and we are live streaming on Facebook until we get that studio up and running. But we have Sabrina Silvers and Jackie Dace from the St. Louis Artworks, and they are celebrating 30 years of bringing young people into the world, the beautiful world of art. And so, if you know somebody, some young person that you see some potential, because sometimes we see potential in young people, but we don't know where to guide them. We don't know where to say, oh, I know just the program for you. Or even if they're in music, I know just the program for you. Because a lot of this, you all, as you all know, are being stripped out of the curriculum for the St. Louis public schools. In most public schools, they don't have music and art. Those are no longer even considered, necessary requirements. But to me, those are the things that really enhance the fullness of our young people, because those are the things that they are attracted to, particularly when they're young. And so to have a program like Artworks, I don't even know if they understand that it's a jewel, and even our community, I don't think understands it. So tell us where you are and talk about what you're planning for the 30th anniversary, because this is not going to be the last time that my listeners are going to hear about it. We're going to like pump it up so people will participate, and even if they can't come, to make a donation, because that's what it's all about. And speaking of donation, before you talk about like the 30th, can you talk about if any of this madness around us in terms of cuts to funding has impacted you all? Because I know if you're getting federal dollars, a lot of that has been like significantly cut. And even some of the foundations have, been impacted by some of the cuts or people's giving and that kind of thing. Has that impacted you all's program at all?
Well, we have been impacted. We do not get federal grants. However, we get commission projects. So sometimes people will commission us to do artwork. And this summer we had two commissions, and that, people had contacted me about the possibility of St. Louis Artworks completing for them. And both of those organizations, they get their funding came from federal grants. And so
Mm-hmm.
they did not, their federal grants got pulled, therefore they couldn't pay us to do the commission. So yeah, we've been impacted as well. And, I always I'm always a little cautious about the way in which I speak, but I would encourage people to look at these smaller organizations like St. Louis Artworks, and consider making your donations to organizations that are truly making an impact in the community, that have been around for 30 years, and you can see the kids and what they're actually doing, as and not just organizations that um, put people in the seats and don't have necessarily the impact. I know that many people would be more inclined or have been more inclined to donate to the higher profile organizations as opposed to the smaller institutions like St. Louis Artworks. And so I strongly encourage, because we often get funding for programs from, foundations or other organizations for to pay the youth their salary, or to purchase some of the paint and things like that. The one thing I think a lot of people forget is there's some overhead and general operating costs that is required in order for us to be able to keep those doors open and to be available for the youth. And that is the hardest funding for us to come across, is general
Mm,
operating support. And we have to keep these lights on. We have to keep the heat going, and the air conditioning, and pay the rent. And so
mm-hmm.
we are, I'm asking and seeking individuals that can help support this organization to help support this organization. I know that there are people that have funds.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
want, I
yeah.
would love, let me walk in the door. You spoke so greatly about your experience with connecting with not only the youth at Harris Stowe and them painting that mural, because you saw it firsthand. You've seen it firsthand when you walk in these doors and you participate in the sales and you interact with the kids. That's where you can see that impact of what this
Mm-hmm.
program does. And so we didn't even have to tell you about St. Louis Artworks. You were
No,
telling us,
right,
you're
right.
telling us. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I'm saying. And let me just get this out too, because I always hear people complaining about the kids in St. Louis.
Oh, please don't get
Yeah,
me started. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, they're always complaining about our youth. And yet
Mhm.
you're not supporting the youth that are trying to do something positive. So let's put a turn on this, since we're doing the work. Hey, we're
Mm-hmm.
doing the work. The kids are doing the work. They're showing up. They want to be here. All we're asking is that you support them. I
Yeah,
tell people all the
yeah.
time, they say, "What's wrong with the kids?" I say, "It's nothing wrong with the kids. It's the adults. There
Right,
isn't a
right.
problem. If they don't have what they need, then of course they're going to do something else." And just as you were talking about with the information that they don't have access to, one of my other favorite sayings is, "You don't know what you don't know." So if they
Mm-hmm.
haven't even been introduced to a different alternative, and all they know is what they see every day and what they hear, the negativity that's coming in and out of their brains all the time, why do you expect them to be anything different? But you can come
Mm-hmm.
into this space, you can make friends, you can make connections, you can find people that want to be your mentors, you can find a way in which you can be expressive and be who you are. Let's support that. Let's
Yeah,
support these
yeah.
types of organizations.
I and two things that you said, Jackie, that I want to sear into people's brains, because one is that there's organizations that are out there who are doing the work that
Mhm.
need to be supported. The other thing is you can't complain about the negative behavior of our young people who, for the most part, are getting so many ugly, negative, disparaging messages from all around, sometimes even inside their own homes.
Mhm.
So when you have the chance to put them in an environment that's going to be nurturing, supportive, encouraging, give some money. Give some
Mhm.
money. Get the money that you spend on that latte for a month. Send that to St. Louis Artworks. And I would even say that if people want to check out the program, they can call you all and say, "Can I just come by and see what's going on?" It's a beautiful space, y'all. Really nice space, big, spacious. All the visual stuff is all around to just really inspire you. So if you don't believe what we're saying,
Mhm.
you can go check it out for yourself, but I don't think you can just walk in because it's just so many different security issues that have to be taken into consideration. But Sabrina, in these last minutes left, tell us about the big 3-0 and how people can support that. I want to see some money coming in to artworks before then, but definitely people can buy tickets to whatever you all going to do. So talk about what that's shaping up to be.
Okay, so we are located in the Delmar Loop. We're at 5959 Delmar Boulevard. We do get people to just stop by, come on in between program sessions. It's a little more lax when the students aren't here. But please call 314-899-9734. Jackie and I are here all the time. But this year, for our 30th anniversary, we are planning the gala December 13th. And there'll be more details coming out around that. But we want to highlight the students' artwork. And this fall program session, we have a new discipline that we're offering, the culinary arts. So the students will be able
Ah,
to make the desserts for our gala. So, and
okay.
like each program session, we always have an art sale. So that'll be the weekend before, and we'll have art and technology. We'll have arts basic 101, culinary arts, and painting,
Mixed media.
mixed media. So,
Mhm.
in our mixed media group, they're focusing on doing the table decorations for our gala. So we're incorporating the students'
Oh,
art
you
into
you are gonna cut a lot of people out with that you would have to pay for that. Okay, in-house.
so, so all year long we've been doing little things, kind of getting ready for the big celebration in December. So all of our artwork has been kind of focused on that. We're just planning on having a good time on December 13th.
So Sabrina, you talked about the art show being the week before, so there's not going to be something like a silent auction at the event that people. Oh, okay, okay.
So yes, there will be a silent auction, and with artwork created by the students, and other artwork that you can purchase at the event. The Art and Technology group is doing a commemorative book, and it'll have artwork in there as well.
And we'll also be
Okay.
we'll be premiering our 30th anniversary documentary that was created by the youth in our program. And just so you know, some of the pieces that will be part of the silent auction are the large scale murals that were designed for the old courthouse. And when it was under construction, we had some mural pieces that were on the 4th Street side. So we have those original pieces here at St. Louis Artworks, and they will be up for auction. If somebody wants to come and see them, you want to purchase them beforehand, more than happy to do that. You know,
Is there a bird in the hand, a dollar in the hand
uh,
is worth
uh,
two in the bush?
there you go. You know it.
So I know that the big art project down at the riverfront is going on. Have any of your young people ever participated in that? Those wall
The
murals?
St. Louis.
Uh, yeah, man,
Um,
we were down there over the weekend. It's always, I go every year. It's
Amazing.
just always phenomenal, phenomenal work.
I don't believe we have any students that participated in the Riverwall painting, but a couple of our teaching artists have artwork down there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's always a place I think that you could definitely get stimulated if you're an artist because you say, oh, I could do something like that, or I remember I did something like that, or I had that concept. But these folks are coming from all over the world
Mhm.
Hmm.
to be a part of this project. And I just think that if young people see the power of art
Mhm.
just by being in that space, that might be motivating as well.
Can,
Yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead.
drop just real quick? Now, there are a
Uh-huh.
couple of pieces I do want to highlight. We have two pieces downtown on the riverfront. The Mary Meacham Crossing, that mural was done by the
Ah,
youth at St. Louis Artworks. So if you go down by
okay.
Mary Meacham, that's St. Louis Artworks mural. We also have some sculptures that are down on the riverfront as well at the mini golf. The barrier sculptures for the disc golf that are on the riverfront. Those sculptures were designed and developed and put together by the youth in our program. So, we have artwork that is throughout the city that a lot of people probably have no idea was created by youth.
And would some of that be up on your website so people would know, like where those places are? Because I think if you don't boast about it yourself, then folks won't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
So
actually, my program manager is creating a mapping. So they're mapping
Oh,
out some of
okay.
the locations of some of the St. Louis artwork. So, yeah, I've always had a dream about having a tour, creating a
Mm.
tour of St. Louis artworks projects. And I tell the kids all the time, I was in my 40s before I had my first public exhibit, and they have public displays already, and they're not even out of
Already
their
at
teens.
15, 16, and 17. Yeah. I
Exactly,
mean,
exactly.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. That's phenomenal. So, just in terms of you've talked about the impact on the young people, and obviously that is impacting our city because to me artwork always is a focal point for beauty, for I mean it's just therapeutic even if you aren't the artist to just be in at least for me, let me speak for myself because I'm a
hmm
visual. If I could like have one talent, it's two things I would love to be able to do. One is sing, because I should be able to sing with the same vocal cords as a Mariah Carey, like why I can't, I don't know.
me
But the
too.
other one, but the other one is painting. Because I'm a visual person, I just love art and love the arts, and so just knowing how to paint and knowing how to take an image that you have in your head and make it real, that to me is just so amazing. And some of these young people from early on, like sketches you see them do, and then you see, wow, look at the detail on that. I mean, I'm just marvel at them. And so I think we need to find ways of loving on our kids when they have some talents, helping them to explore that, and taking it to new levels. Growing their growing edges. And so, again, this is a gym, y'all, not GYMGEM. And y'all need to be supporting it. So if you got some money, you got something, you had some windfall, doesn't have to be a big windfall, and you want somewhere to make an input, invest in our young people. You can't go wrong with that. Just invest in our young people. Let them see that we're investing in them, because I think that means a lot too in a society, particularly for black males, where they've just been thrown away, discarded, of having no value, no worth, except negative, filling our prisons. So this is a place that I think we can really, really say that they can prosper, and you'll see the impact. So I want to thank Jackie and Sabrina for all that you are doing with the young people over there and helping St. Louis uh, create some art geniuses. And now that you're adding these other disciplines, I mean, it's going to really totally be a holistic program for real. All the disciplines will be there. So I got a couple of announcements to make. And speaking of young people, I want to give a shout out to the graduates last Friday who graduated in the apprenticeship program in construction. And that was at the IBEW Hall. So these are young people that have a skill that is going to be utilized for years to come. They're going to get paid well. So hopefully they'll become union members, and hopefully they will be citizens who give back to their community, because people have given back to them. And so kudos to them. And then, the Remember Me art installation is still going on. It ends September 12th. Uh, this is the homicide victims. It's 1,000 of them, unsolved homicides, but there were 6 original portraits by Kababi, and those are still on display at the Curiosity Building, 3033 Locust Street. But in order to see that, you have to email Vanessa at stl.org. And I haven't done it, and I got it on my calendar to get over there because I want to see. I had some of those mothers on the show talking about what it's meant for them to be trying to seek justice for their victims of homicide, their loved ones, still unsolved. But they picked 6 of those homicide victims. And so that's over there at the Curiosity Building. That's in the Art District for St. Louis. So, yeah. And speaking of arts, this is the 48th anniversary, the 48th season of the Black Rep. And they're going to do something free for us, y'all, on September 10th, next Wednesday. They're going to have a free concert called Beats and Strings Soul Renaissance. And why don't I have where that's going to be? Oh my goodness, where is that going to be? Okay, y'all, I'm gonna put it up on my website. But 7 o'clock, and this is going to be the perfect place for people who have gone to Jeff City, fighting with the crazy people up there. This will be a place to decompress, chill out, free, at the generosity of the Black Rep. So, and y'all, this is the gerrymandering thing, the illicit, illegal gerrymandering that's going on, trying to take another seat out of our democratic process. And we got to be mindful of that. We got to keep on top of that. And so I'm going to try to have in one place how you all can contact your elected officials down there. But yeah, this is some serious stuff as we go into the 9th month of the MAGA inspired authoritarian government that is wreaking havoc on the lives of Black and brown people, in fact, working class families, period. But yeah, there's a lot going on, y'all, and so we want you to stay engaged, stay woke. That's not a bad word, y'all. I know Trump says almost criminalizing the word woke, but we got to stay woke, and we particularly got to keep working for our young people who are, we claim that we believe they are our future, but we're not invested in them like they are. And so again, I want to put a bug in your ear about supporting St. Louis artworks. They're over there in the Delmar Loop. You can't miss the building. Even the outside of it is visually pleasing. So, any last words, Jackie or Sabrina, to our listeners?
The
The
only
one
thing I
thing that
want,
I want to say real
go
quick,
ahead.
that one of the students created an art piece that says the future will not build itself. So that's the number one reason to support the youth at St. Louis Artworks, because the future will not build itself.
Mhm. And
That's out of the mouth of babes. What can we say?
out of the
Hmm.
mouth of babes. And I do want to once again thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate you highlighting and your wonderful support of St. Louis Artworks and your kind words. We've known each other for a long time, and
Yeah,
I definitely appreciate everything that you do.
yeah.
And keep stay on that battlefield. We definitely appreciate it. We may not see each other all the time, but I support you from afar. So
Yeah,
appreciate
and
it.
likewise, likewise.
Thank
All
you.
right, my people, thank you for listening, and I will see you on the battlefield.
Right now, right
Right now.
now, right
Let's
now.
do it right now. We don't need to fuss and fight. We got to do it
We got to get it right. We got to get it
right
right.
now. We don't need to fuss and fight. We got to
Our
do it
homeland
right.
cries.
Stop the fussing and the fighting.
It cries for freedom.
Let's do it right now. We don't need
Right
to
now.
fuss and fight. We got to do it right.